And the answer was, if you are the leader of a 21st century business, you will not be successful unless you understand how to use 21st century tools. And that's the biggest thing that I think we're talking about. Is not that people aren't capable. You need to give them the tools, such as your tools. Good plug for you guys there, in order to make people more aware of what can be done.
Welcome to the Modern Selling Podcast, where we help the entire sales community to create more sales conversations with today's modern buyer. This includes anyone from entrepreneurs and business owners to sales reps and sales leaders. Each episode, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you find, engage, connect, and nurture your relationships with your buyers. I'm Mario Martinez Jr., your host, and you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Postal.io, a sales and marketing engagement platform that generates leads, increases sales, and improves customer retention. Learn how you can integrate direct mail and gifting into your existing sales strategy by visiting Postal.io. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast, and I am with the amazing Mr. Marcus Jewell, Chief Sales Officer and Executive Vice President of Juniper Networks. Marcus, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, good to be here. Great to be here. What an intro.
Yeah, well, you can use that one now as the voice of God walking when you walk on stage, the next big all hands that you've got. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Mr. Marcus Jewell.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for sure.
So everybody who's listening in, we've got sales leaders, we've got marketing leaders, we've got sales reps. One of the things I love about bringing on practitioners, meaning chief sales officers, those that are sitting in the seat, guys like yourself, is the fact that you're in the trenches every single day and you're having fun with the sales team. And you've got a very large sales organization that reports up into you. So we're going to be spending some time on the topic, if I'm not mistaken, all about relationship selling and either the death or its demise, or maybe a little bit of combination of both. But before we get into that topic, I wanted to have everybody give a little bit of background about yourself. So just do me a favor, Marcus. Everybody knows you're obviously the CSO and EVP of Juniper Networks, one of our largest customers. Thank you for being a loyal customer of ours. But do me a favor, tell us a little bit of background about yourself. And then I've got a very special question I want to ask you.
Okay, so yeah, look, I've just been a sales guy my whole life. So very straightforward. I left university as an engineer. I was a bad engineer. I actually, my first job was to put a bridge together, and I'm not going to say it fell down, but it didn't work functionally as well. And I think the chartered engineer had said another career is beckoning for you. So as a young guy, I decided to flip. I was very lucky to get on the Xerox graduate training program, and just loved everything about selling, the psychology, the dealing with people, the trying to create value and that whole thing. Worked my way through, got into the IT industry, had a lot of success in the early days when it was a little easier selling what we sell now. Led a few companies, did a few IPOs, and here I am now running Juniper. So it's been a great, it's been a blast. I've loved it.
Yeah, and at Juniper, you've been there for almost 4 years now, 3.5 years, I think it is.
Yeah, 3.5 years. I've been CSO now for just coming up to 2. Came in to sort out Europe first, and then reload to the Bay Area, and now I'm heading up the worldwide organization. That's right.
I got it. So my very special question that I want to ask you, which I ask all my guests, and I'm looking for something juicy because that's what I'm looking for. So tell us one thing that nobody knows about you, even if they were looking at any of your social profiles.
Yeah, well, I kind of like my social profile does show it up occasionally, but I'm a big into car racing. So I've been GT car racing for a long time, but I've entered a number of races under different names. So what a lot of people don't know is that I actually won a European Championship. And I actually, this year, technically I've won a world championship, but they don't publish those things at the moment because of COVID. So yeah, I'm a pretty good car racing driver for a fat middle-aged businessman. That's what I say.
All right, I wasn't expecting that, but I guess I should have figured something out with the cars that are sitting on the
You
back
got
of
them on
your
the
wall.
background. Yeah, you got some of the
Yeah.
championship cars on the background. So look, I'm not professional standard or anything like that, but I've been relatively successful for a guy my age and my build. I'm an ex-rugby player, so I shouldn't really be good at racing cars, but I have a lot of fun doing it.
So my first experience in doing car racing was in Las Vegas, where it was the Richard Petty driving experience.
Yeah.
And it's funny, actually, I have this picture. It's inside my closet. I was about 60 pounds heavier. And, of course, the doors don't open. You got to slide through the window inside there. So they
Yeah.
put this helmet on, and I kid you not, if I pull it, I'll pull this picture out after the podcast. But for those of you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm taking my cheeks, and I look like this.
Yeah.
To get that thing off, it took like two guys to help me get that thing on and off, man. It was like, but I tell you, that was the best experience, the most thrilling ride experience you could ever have. They only let us do 110, I think it was 110 miles an hour on the track because for the beginners. But boy, I was like, I think it's 6 speeds on that car. That was power right there, raw power.
It's an addiction. Once you're into it, it's you get hooked. You can't get out of it. And it's not something I promote too much because it distracts a bit from the business. But a few people know I do it, and so I guess everyone will know I do it now. So
everybody will know you do it now.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I enter as Donald Duck, so my name doesn't come up on the results. So if you find a funny name in a race, it could have been me. So was it.
It could have been you. All right. Well, very good. Well, that one I wasn't expecting, Marcus. You threw a fastball on me on that one. Well, listen, we're going to get into spending some time talking about relationship selling. Now, the world, of course, has changed as a result of how we go to market and how we sell. And your sales organization is a couple thousand people wide, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
2,400, I think now. Yeah.
So you have definitely felt the impact in terms of how you've gone to market from a virtualization standpoint, remote selling, and truly taking your sales organization and turning them into, well, quite frankly, remote sellers worldwide. But you talk a lot about the death of relationship selling, and probably as a trigger event as a result of remote selling. So talk a little bit about why do you say relationship selling is dying or dead?
Yeah. So look, first of all, I want to point out if any of my peer group are listening and other people that run businesses of smaller scale, bigger scale, whatever, I don't have the answer book here. I don't want to come across as some pious expert on this kind of thing, but I figured a lot out as a number of my colleagues have as well, in that relationship selling was dying. And I got myself in a load of hot water on a few posts about that and got a number of CROs upset. And I kind of thought to myself, why are people upset? Well, they're upset because in my age group, I'm 48. We probably all came from the school of relationship sellers. So it's a reflection on us and things that we will have lost, where it was, building those strong relationships at the CIO level in the C-suite, socializing with those people, having late lunches and too many glasses of wine and all that kind of stuff, which made selling awesome back in the 90s and early 2000s. But it was dying off, and it was dying off because of time pressure, and the internet was making it very hard, or the access, I shouldn't say the internet, but the access to information. And anyone that's read about the Challenger sale, or, what Gartner write about selling, or Boston Consulting, or any of these large companies will point out that, 60, 70% of the research is now done before the sales rep gets in. When I started my selling career, if somebody wanted to know how to do something, they had to see a rep. They had to see a sales rep or, account executive, or whatever you want to call your sales force. Now you don't. You can make your judgment on, social media feed, on video, on blogs, on white papers. You can do that. So you've got to question then that those relationship sellers that purely relied on relationship was dying anyway. COVID killed it. So COVID meant, okay, I can't go and see, Billy and my son play football for the same club. I'm going to go see him and get that sale done. That is not going to work. So when I first put the post out, people really reacted and go, well, no, you still need to be good at relationships. Of course you do. I'm not saying that, salespeople that can't form and hold relationships and be social and have that determination and tenacity, that's still got to be the thoroughbred part of being a seller in our world. But you can't rely on that. That can't be your only game, because when that game gets taken away like COVID, what do you do? And the question I pose is, how many sales leaders out now have their type A's, be them female, male, whatever ethnic background, now climbing the walls because they're zoomed out, they don't know what to do, they're missing the interaction. I hear that a lot. So that is proving to me that relationship side was dying away anyway. And we just need a different approach, which I now call digitalization of the sales process. And that's kind of where we're aiming. So that's kind of my thesis of what's going on.
So you and I are in the same boat. Pretty much everybody who's the 45 and older, we grew up selling in a very different way.
Yep.
And I remember the days. You'll appreciate this one. You remember the days we used to walk into the sales office.
Yep.
We used to go to the big wall, and it had all those big giant file cabinets. We pulled the big drawer out, and we'd pull out the 1-page flyer and the next page flyer and this page flyer, and we put it into our little peachy folder. We'd stick our business card onto the we'd clip it in like the little edges, and then we'd hand that off to the customer. Like, gone are the days where we're even producing product slicks anymore, right?
Yeah.
It is completely gone, in my opinion. And now everything, to your point, has been moved online.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that time and access to information has killed it, but COVID also killed the relationship selling concept, if you would. And that post that you're referring to that you put out there, a lot of folks actually said, well, no, relationships are still key. And there is some truth to that. So how do you balance that relationship building versus relationship selling? Like I think there's probably two different things that we've got going on here. One is you're saying we don't have the relationship prior to the start of the conversation because they've done all this research, and now we get into an opportunity or a conversation, and now we have to figure out how to build that relationship very quickly at the same time as educate. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. So I did a bit more analysis on it, and we spoke to a few psychologists about what is going on, and there's a difference in relationships. So I'll try and explain this. I'm not a psychological expert. I love the subject, but I'm not an expert. The psychology of previous sales motions was about building empathy and trust. It was about building empathy and trust. And what sellers tended to do was build that empathy and trust because they were liked. They were building that rapport and familiarity. So there's two words there that you hear a lot: rapport and familiarity. And especially North American sales, which I've learned as I've run large North American teams over the last kind of decade or so, it really relies on that informality outside of work. It was not uncommon for senior buyers and sellers to socialize together with families. I know people even went on holiday together. Now in Europe and APAC, that would never happen. You would not go on holiday with your customers and go around to their houses. That would be a very rare occurrence. So that's something I learned and went, what's going on here? And it was just all about building that trust level. But it was much more about familiarity. Really what customers realized is because they had time in their diaries to do that, plus get the great outcome. What we're now seeing is that they're just focused on the outcome. So they still need to build that trust, but they build it in a very different way. They build it with people that can come to them with concepts which can help their business, as opposed to the familiarity. Now, those social skills that you have are still required, but you don't get the chance to use them in isolation. They now need to be a part of your makeup, not the only thing of your makeup. So what we're now seeing is that people who can be analytical, people that can manipulate data, people that can understand truly what the customer impact is of their solutions, but have great relationship skills, are just failing. They're just failing all over the place. What we're seeing the successful people is these people that have all these analytical skills, plus the ability to hold that trust level and build that trust. And you now build that trust, not on familiarity, but on delivery. So the world has become a very outcome, deliver. Our relationship with you, you're a great guy, we love you, but you got to deliver for us. And those kind of things, the informality has gone back to quite a formal business relationship, and that's what we're seeing happen more and more and more.
Interesting. And with a sales organization that, again, 45 and older, that has built our sales career off of relationship building, trust, value, those types of things, what do you do? What do you do with those folks? Is it a hard pivot? How do we as sales leaders turn around and say, all right, we recognize this, that you need to have those analytical skills and you need to be able to pivot. Do you and your peers, our peers, are we saying, hey, we need to be able to start bringing in different types of skills to help these folks change and pivot in the organization, or what do we do?
Well, it is a hard pivot, and look, I'm going to use an example here, and again, this might be a little harsh, and I don't know the insight, but there's large companies in the market which are doing early retirement programs. In our sector, there's a company that's let 10,000 people go, and it did a massive early retirement. Now, what's that telling you? It's telling you that. Does that mean that every person over 40 is on the scrap heap? No, of course it doesn't. But what it's telling you is that it's harder to change those people than to find a new breed that have these different skills. Now, we don't subscribe to that. I mean, I've never subscribed that, age or gender or ethnic background is any precursor to any availability. I've got people who work for me at 70 years old have more energy than 18-year-olds. I've also got 20-year-olds that need a kick in the backside, but that's a different issue. That's a part of sales leadership. So what we do is we just look for these analytical skills. I think the one bit that you have to have is you have to be able to look at data, and you have to find insight. And that insight has to be researching the customer and then making an impactful statement and showing some value. If you can't do that, if it is all about, letting somebody else build your book of business and then you go in and close it, it's never going to work. So what we're doing is actually testing people now and giving them skills where they can actually manipulate data and use social media better. I want to give you an example. We did some social media training of how to leverage social media better. And one of the statements that came out from one of the trainers was, there was a VP of sales in an industry, very large company, 6 billion in revenue, who basically said to the trainer, why on earth do I need to use social media? What's the point? I've got a $6 billion business, we're doing very well. And the answer was, if you are the leader of a 21st century business, you will not be successful unless you understand how to use 21st century tools. And that's the biggest thing that I think we're talking about. Is not that people aren't capable. You need to give them the tools, such as your tools, good plug for you guys there, in order to make people more aware of what can be done, and replace that relationship time in their diary with research time and insight time. And that's what we do. We call it research and insight, and we remove the relationship part because it simply isn't a part of the job anymore.
Interesting. I want to come back to something you said earlier about how the sales, I think you called it the sales motion, if you would, and the buyer and then sales engagement is really moved to more of an outcome-based set of results or expectation.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, what you mean by that, versus the relationship sellers and how they used to sell. Can you drill down on that for a second?
Yeah, so the relationship sale, the main difference is, you think about, and this is how we were brought up, I guess, is the first thing would be, massive open-ended qualification, always asking questions, always be closing, always asking open question after open question after open question. How, where, and what, tell to me, describe to me, display to me, describe to me, explain to me, tell me. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to build up that picture of the customer effectively closing themselves, as you know, by giving you all the information you need in order to then tune your pitch back to them. That was how most sales would start in a qualification phase. Most sales now start with very much actually the proof concept stage, which is very, very an anathema to me, because you want to be asking open questions, so you tune it. What you now have to do is you almost have to second guess, and it's not guessing because you're actually doing the work, to come up with what the proposition is. You go, look, and so there's lots of parallel selling, like people in your industry have seen a 20% reduction on inventory because of doing this, or we've seen an outcome of this. We've made companies like yours more competitive. So you're actually getting straight to that business outcome. And that's been true for a while. What we now need to do is tune that outcome even sharper to make sure that you've done a lot of research to make it very personal. Once you have that personal piece, you've built your credibility. Then you actually do go back to quite an old-fashioned way of selling. Well, old-fashioned, that's not true. Let me use the right word there. A proven and correct way of selling, which is then qualified, prove, close. And so that's really the change that we've seen, is that sense of create the excitement before you even start. If somebody said to me when I started Xerox and had a bit of a career there and then went into IT sales, that you would show somebody something before you ask an open question, you'd be shocked. Your manager would fire you. It's like, no, you must ask 25 open questions before you even consider. Who's got time for that? That doesn't happen anymore. That's what's really changed.
Interesting. So are you seeing then a lot more customers wanting to get straight to, show me the demo, show me what you've got, show me how it works, and tell me the pricing on that first call, when traditionally we're on that first call, we're trying to scope, we're trying to figure out, we're trying to look for that VBR, the valid business reason. Yep. We're trying to understand, Are you saying that customers are now saying, let's get to meeting number 3 in meeting number 1?
Basically, that's what's happened. If you think, in a complex sale like we do, let's say it's we mean some of our deals are hundreds of millions of dollars. So let's say your average enterprise deal, $2-3 million to us, something like that. That's probably a 10 meeting journey in the classic terms. It'd probably be a 10 meeting kind of thing. Yeah. By the time you really got through to it, maybe 7 or 8, but probably 10 when you're spending that amount of money. What we're saying now is the first 3 meetings just don't happen. You're getting in and meeting 4 or 5, maybe meeting 7 or 8. Actually, it's even harder than that, because what you're doing is you're going in on a preconception of something else. The buyers are super educated. They already know what they want and they know their business issue. So what you're actually doing is you've actually probably got to stop them going down a route, unless they're going to buy your product. Then you're a really bad sales guy if you go in and try and stop them. But they probably set their conditions on somebody else, and normally the leader of the market. So what you're actually doing is trying to draw attention to another area to undo their thinking of what they've done. And you can only do that by proving an alternative. So what we do now is a lot of alternative positioning to take them to think in a new area.
I think you nailed it. And what we're seeing actually, even in our own organization, is anything that's coming in on the inbound, meaning someone's requesting of us digital sales training, whether it be social, whether it be video, they've usually hit at least 5 sales pages or more.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, that first conversation they're wanting to get to, they're wanting to get to, talk to me about pricing. How do you do this? What differentiates you from here? And you already know at that point, they've done analysis, they've done information gathering. And at that point, I love what you said. We're oftentimes trying to reposition or reframe their thinking in going a certain direction, because somebody may have framed it either the way we don't want them to be framed, incorrectly, or they've just gathered all this information and now they're trying to make heads or tails of it. And so they're trying to organize it. And I think you nailed it in terms of that's exactly what we're seeing happen for customers who are coming in on the inbound, and those that we're actually meeting with, generally speaking, those on the outbound side. When you give them content to engage with as part of the pre-meeting process, they're educating themselves prior to coming to that meeting to see what is it that you can do to solve a specific problem. And that's, I think, if you were to line up, Marcus, 100 salespeople in a room, and you were to say, what business problem do we solve? Give me an answer in 1 sentence. I'm going to say that out of those 100 people, probably 90 of them can't answer in 1 sentence what business problem we solve.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, what one of the things that you're highlighting here has become a major problem for remote selling sellers, is that we need to understand the valid business reason why somebody would do business with us, and the outcome of which we will produce. And we need to be able to capitalize on that in 1 sentence.
Totally. But it's even more, and I'm kind of going to go at this a bit, it's even more complicated than that. And I don't want to worry the people listening to this. It's not what you solve. It's what you enable in the mindset and the words of your customer. So it's their benefit on their terms. And too many companies, especially in your sector, by the way, your sector is a great sector. I mean, because I love getting pinged about 500 times a day as a CRO from everyone that's got a sales improvement tool or something, and actually it's becoming like the photocopier market that was. It's becoming saturated with, quite honestly, a load of crap, to be honest, because most of this stuff doesn't do anything.
Right.
Obviously, you stand head and shoulders above everyone else with your solutions. Let's not even go there on that. But it's because they put it in their terms. My business does this. I don't, excuse the language. I don't care. I don't give a crap what your business does. I'm interested in how you can help my business in my terms. And that's where the research is absolutely critical. And what I used to say is the sales journey and the buying journey used to start at the same time. So your buyer and your seller, you would embark on that relationship at exactly the same time. Yep. I've got this issue. I think I've got this issue. I think I need to speak to you. Tell me what you do. I'll find out what you do. Stage. Now, as a seller, you're like, where's this client on his buying journey? And that's the first thing we do in our qualification. Where is he? Are they a budget need? Have they based the bid on somebody else? Is it tender stage? Do they want pricing? And you can see with what they look at on social media, what they're looking at on your website, how they're engaging with you, even the questions they ask, we can even tell which competitor they've looked at, because we know when they say, just the phrasing of their words, and we've used some AI tools around this. Actually, we know they've looked at company X because they're using that statement that that company uses. So it's the people that can understand and disseminate that and then think a lot about how they position themselves in the sale will be successful. The ones that just want to go, open question, let me take you for a drink, I'm sorry, that ain't going to work.
Yeah, yeah. Totally agree with everything that you're talking about here. And you started touching on some of the skills that are needed in today's selling environment as a remote selling team. Yeah. And you mentioned digitize the sales organization several times. Yes. The ability to be able to pivot in terms of relationship selling to understanding things like outcome-based conversations, understanding those, what I call the VBR, the valid business reason why you need something like this right now. I'm sure there's a lot more skills that are required. So can you comment on, with this concept of relationship selling is dying, what are some of the skills that are needed in today's sales environment to succeed?
Yeah, and again, let's remind ourselves that the relationship part is still a very important part. You have to have that, but it can't be your only game. So what we're now looking for is we still look for the same kind of determination, gregariousness, the ability to drive, those kind of things. They're still fundamental to me because selling's hard, Jake. Because effectively, even if you've got an awesome close rate, you're going to lose an equally amount of time you're going to win. So rejection becomes a part of your life in sales. What we now need is people that can basically analyze data. So we're actually looking for a lot of what we call non-verbal reasoning skills. People that can see pattern formation is incredibly important. People that understand how to articulate a point of view is even more important than it has ever been. Because the best salespeople used to be like Forrest Gump, when he was in the army, go do this, and he was the best soldier in the world because he did everything he was told. That's how some sales teams worked. Now you need that creativity and that ability to manipulate. And the biggest thing now is, and it's not empathy. People think it's empathy. Empathy is the wrong word. It's actual what you call situational understanding, so that they can actually understand in the situation how to present to the customer. So we do a lot of mock-ups. We look at a lot of people with science degrees now. We believe that actually intellect is actually more important as being selling for a long time, not because they're technically strong, but because they can actually manipulate data. And they're really the key aspects. I would say the data manipulation and the ability to take a point of view and argue. People that do well in debate schools and debate class are really good for us as well.
Interesting. It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things I started about 6 weeks ago, as you know, we're a virtual selling company. We do virtual sales training. Obviously, you know that. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I realized was our sales team needed to enhance their situational understanding and the ability to process data in a much more streamlined way. So what I started doing is and I still get in the field as CEO of the company. I love selling. And when we have a massive, large opportunity, I'll insert myself. So I've got myself inserted into a sales opportunity, and we're using this as a weekly opportunity through email messaging as well as through the recording. We use gong.io for all of our sales coaching platform remote set for the remote sellers. So we take these calls and we have everybody listen to them. And then we come on a weekly call and we say, what did you learn? What did you like? What didn't you like? And we review that. And everybody has to go in and actually put their feedback on the gong.io platform. And then in addition to that, we take the emails that are being communicated, and we're now into a very large contract. We're negotiating now with legal and with the contracts organization, the finance team. Awesome. And so as I send these things out, and one of them I sent out last night, I said, they responded back to our red lines, and they said they nixed all the red lines. And one of the red lines are things that we just won't cave on. Like, for example, they want to own all the rights to our IP. Well, that's just not going to happen, right? I'm not going to give you the rights to my IP. I'll license it to you, but I won't give it to you. So I made very specific reference back to the legal team. And I said, listen, there are 2 showstoppers and there are 2 things that we probably need to discuss. Mm-hmm. And if we can't overcome these showstoppers, we should stop having the conversation now and we'll move on. Mm-hmm. That's how important it is. And out of those 4 things that I listed, only one of them did I identify by writing what was the showstopper. And so I asked the sales team, I pushed this out and I said, no, why did I only highlight? I said there were 2 things that were showstoppers, but I only pointed out that one of them was which one was. Where's the other one? Why did I do that? And as part of that strategic selling, and finally the team got it and they said, I think you're probably trying to drive them to a conversation. That's exactly right, right? I'm taking in, this team is so remote from me. They're all the way in India, which is the remote team. I'm trying to have a conversation and I can't get them to the tables. I need to bring them to the table to be able to drive this. So we're using this as an opportunity to be able to really drive that, what you call situational understanding. And that's the type of thing that we're getting down and dirty as a sales leadership and as a sales team.
Yeah.
Are those the types of things that you're looking, that you would say, plus maybe many others, that you would say that leaders need to start doing differently inside the sales team?
Yeah, look, I think as a leader, your challenge is difficult because you tend to surround yourself with people that you're similar to you. You tend to, it's human nature, you tend to spend time with people that you like and people that you don't like. And you tend to surround yourself with people who think the same. Yeah, that's why there's political parties. That's why there's countries. That's why this, the whole world is the way it is. But you got to put yourself out in the stretch market. You got to get yourself out of your comfort zone and spend time with probably people that are right at the lowest end of your organization. So your VSEs and your SDRs, VSEs, virtual sales execs, for us, internal sales, and SDRs. Obviously, everyone uses that term. I try and spend quite a lot of time with those people to understand what's going on, what techniques they're seeing, what they've noticed, what patterns they're seeing. And then you can use your situational experience then to help digitize the sales process. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of the sales process can be digitized. And that doesn't mean you're making salespeople robots or bots. I don't mean that. What I mean is, think about an experience of something that you've bought recently, whether it's B2C or B2B, and you had a great experience. I mean, I laughed with the company the other day. People can spend maybe, 30, 40, $50 million with us, and they will have pretty sporadic and inconsistent contact, from how the sales process goes until when they're in supply and support and all those kind of things. We bought a dishwasher for our kitchen in the UK, and I probably had more emails from that company about where are you, and about, and like everything. Are you okay with this? Do you know where to put the salt? Do you need any help? Blah blah. They're not trying to. And my wife goes, they're great. They're not trying to sell me anything. I said, of course they are. They know that we're in the awareness phase now, and they're trying to keep us back in this infinity curve of get back to your next purchase. That's what I mean about digitizing the sales process. What can I automate for the sales team to go, hey, congratulations on buying or whatever you bought, outcome-based, whatever. Have you done this? I looked at your return on investment. You said you wanted to get this. Are we there? And just taking that away and actually making that an automated process through either a team or effectively we're looking at technology. We want to do that through technology, but not technology that makes it like a bot, technology which actually enhances the input to get into, we're a big SFTC user like most companies. You need to email this person this, you need to say this, you need to do this. That's what I mean by digitizing the sales process, giving them the guardrails that I think our people now need.
Yeah. So I just bought, on a personal level, apparently my wife says I snore. I don't think I snore very loudly, but she says it's loud enough. So I just bought, I think it was called Sleep Nora, right? This new thing to be able to try underneath my pillow where it, moves your head and it takes you from, relaxing your muscle to tightening it up, all that stuff. And it came late last week, and about every other day or every day now, I'm getting a new tip. Like, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And oh, by the way, do you have this? And it was like those subtle messages, like, oh, no, I don't. Well, let us know. We can gladly give this to you, right? And that's all completely automated without the engagement of a seller. Now, I'm sure if I have additional questions and whatnot, I could pick up the phone and actually call somebody to be able to get my questions answered. But that's a great way in terms of really companies who adjusted to this world of remote selling have done exactly as you just stated. And that is, they're looking at ways to be able to automate things so that it allows the sellers to be able to go back, and to your point earlier you made was research and insights.
Yeah.
And understand who you're talking to before you have that conversation. And that is a big problem that we see happening, especially as a buyer for our company, Vingresso. You'll love this one. I'm on the board of a sales technology company, and I had the SDR of the competitor reaching out to me to sell me their solution. And the best part was that the SDR was totally socially engaged, was finding all my social posts
Yep.
and was engaging with me, making comments, asking questions, then moved into an email, then it moved into a LinkedIn message, then it moved into a connection message, and all 3 times trying to get me to close to move to a meeting. And I finally said, hey, did you bother to look at my profile to see that I'm on the board of your competitor? I mean, sorry, I'm on the board of a competitor. And that's when it hit him like, oh, shoot. Like something so simple that it was just like so simple. That was super frustrating to see something like that happen. But of course, it was a great learning opportunity for, a younger SDR. And he realized it as soon as he did and said, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, that's the research and insights that are required to be able to be a modern seller today.
Yeah, and again, look, you can't. The other thing that I think people look, and we're learning this. I mean, I think the whole world is learning this together. And we started this transition a long time ago. Well, 2 years ago, actually, as soon as I got the job, because I could see the writing on the wall, and COVID has just expedited it. It hasn't. We were always going to do this. And I don't subscribe to the fact that the whole world will be internal sales forever. I still think there is that need for personal connectivity and personal touch and relationships. It's always a need. It's a human need, if anything else. But what we're now seeing is we're seeing this kind of push where there used to be this saying, it's a numbers game. Sales is a numbers game. I probably used that saying myself. And actually, I realized it isn't. It isn't. It's about how do I make sure that interaction is at the right time with the right message? That's what you're trying to do. So if I can get smart people to figure out, and their efficacy is 1 in 2, they don't have to make 50 cold calls a day or whatever the target is you set them. So it's now about this. Let's be more specific. Let's get you so excited that your message is so on point for the customer that when you get in front of them, they have no choice but to engage. That's what we're aiming for. Not, just keep hitting and hitting and hitting. That's not going to get you anywhere. Just make it on point. And I feel so sorry for SDRs calling in because, I get called or, emailed or LinkedIn by them all the time. And I just give them such a hard time because it's a bit of fun. But I really respect, and I will always engage because I appreciate what a difficult job it is. But there are some real bag techniques out there, as you probably know, like using an alternative close to a sales leader. Like, are you available Thursday or Friday? Like, that's just like, like that ain't gonna cut it, son. So like, let's just like, you're down, you're blocked now, you're now in spam. So, there's a few things out there where I worry that there's a great market for you guys because you can go and coach them that ain't going to work. But it makes me cringe because I think, what are my guys doing? What are my team doing to go, come on, think about your message. And it's okay. If somebody says, I'm not interested, then peace, I'm not interested. It's not always about overcoming an objection. You can't overcome every objection. So it's okay.
I want to touch on this particular topic you just mentioned, especially can we meet this Thursday or Friday when it's Tuesday today, right? That one kills me. Or the best one was I got this past Friday. I only need 6 minutes of your time. Whoa, that is so specific.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want to touch on how are you, from Juniper Network standpoint, digitizing your sales force? And we talked about some aspects of this, but before you answer, I want everybody to take a listen to this message from our program sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by Postal.io, a sales and marketing engagement platform that generates leads, increases sales, and improves customer retention. Postal allows you to automate and personalize your offline outreach to both existing customers and new prospects at scale. Learn how you can easily integrate direct mail, gifts, charitable donations, and even alcohol into your existing sales, marketing, and retention strategies. Visit Postal.io today and request a demo so you can boost your pipeline and close more deals. Okay, so right before that program sponsor break, I had asked you a question about how are you digitizing your sales force? Now, we talked about some of the things you guys are doing, but give me an idea. What is the
Sure.
what does the template look like? And feel free, of course, you can talk about anything you want in relation to social, digital, training, skills, whatever. I mean, give us a breakdown of what that looks like, that plan.
Well, so I'll start at a macro level or a meta level, if you like. So at the top, we're moving as many transactions as we possibly can into an internal sales motion. So The idea now is not to look at that by scale. It used to be like, the big boys buy from the gray haired salespeople, and then, the younger people look after whatever's left when you've carved up the market into all the goodness is taken out. We don't do that anymore. What we basically do is we segment our market into three areas. We have three segments, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you're. We have cloud, service provider, and enterprise. And that's because the cohort group is similar in those pieces. We then split down into geographies. What we do is we basically name our accounts. So we look at the people where we believe and we know that the outcome of our solutions has the biggest impact. And we give those to quite an experienced group of people. And it's very, very limited. So, I mean, they will have no more than 10 to 15 net new business targets, and they will be thinking a lot about creating the right outcome. So they work on what we call account-based marketing, which you probably know, and they work very hard on making sure that they think about the approach. A lot of work goes in before even the customer's contacted. A lot of subliminal messaging to them, a lot of social. I'm not going to give all our secrets away, but you guys, I'm sure, will coach people on how to do it. But a lot of ways that you can get insight and interest from that customer, and we make those approaches very personal and very driven. So that does take a level of expertise and experience. That takes quite a lot of grit and determination, because you got, we're trying to sell big hairy stuff, and you got people trying to buy big hairy stuff. So that I would say that market has changed because the people think a lot more about their approach. Yeah. So that's really what's changed at the top end. In the mid tier, it's mainly an internal motion now, and it's much more about what we call insertion points. So we create, on average, about 4 sales plays a month, and those sales plays are outcome based. So that this will give you this saving, this will make you more competitive in this sector, and it's very, very specific, written in the language of the customer. We only work in certain verticals as well, which is important. So we don't go to general market and go same solution for a legal firm as it is for an accountancy firm as it is for a building company. It's not. We only set our verticals up, and I won't go into that because it's probably irrelevant to this conversation. What we have is what we call basically a fast fail program. So we have a head of sales digitization. I've appointed a head, and what he does is he has a team of VSEs and SDRs, and he tests. So we have a test sample where we run outcomes and insights through this program in a sprint, and we change that sprint every 2 weeks. And what that then leads to is the next playbook. So the playbook then evolves because we've tested it. So I always have to apologize to my customers which are in the test segment, because they're probably annoyed with, this, what the hell are Juniper talking about? I didn't even know they did that. That sounds really out there. And these then fast fail to these insertion points. What it then does is it maps our journey. So we then know the buyer journey, and we know the selling journey, and we map them together. It's actually quite a complicated process. I'm not doing it any justice here, and we're trying to simplify that down. But that's the approach that we've been taking, and it seems to be resonating well, growing. So I think we're the only company in our sector growing. So we're definitely doing something right.
Very nice. And where do you see activities? So traditional activities that sellers would use would be phone and email. That's what we always used, face-to-face and events. So COVID comes, remote selling now is here. And even if things swing back to normal, a cure is found, let's just pretend it does, I don't believe that things will swing back to the way it used to be.
No.
I think that there's going to be probably more remote selling than we've ever had before. And the study shows, McKinsey just published a report showcasing how buyers are now saying that sellers are better in the buying and selling process, and now doing virtualization, because now they're getting more pointed into the conversation of what the problems are. Back to your original point, that was something that Tiffany Bova showed this past weekend from Salesforce. With that in mind, where do you think the use of like tools and technology, so phone, email, face-to-face, social, video, direct mail, are these things are tools that sellers should be using?
Look, I look at I think there'll actually be two things. I think there'll be a pivot back to lots of face-to-face, because people will crave the interaction, but then they'll realize this is pretty crap. They'll realize I'm stuck in traffic again on the 101 or wherever it is, or wherever you are in the world. This is horrible, and, flying around the world will seem, exotic again for 3 months, and then you'll be sick of it. So what will happen is I think there'll be an overreaction to meeting, and then it will get back to some kind of balance. And I think we'll have a nice balance then between face-to-face, video and voice. I actually think video is going to suffer. And I say that for a reason. I think there's going to be, and again, Zoom's a fantastic company. Nothing, I think their technology is awesome. But I think there's going to be a reaction to Zoom. There's a lot of, and not only Zoom, I should say Zoom, Teams, whatever. I have no affiliation with any of these companies. I think there's going to be a reaction to that because I think people are just a bit done with it. But then I think they'll go back and use it appropriately. So I think they'll find the niches where it works really well. It works well for one-on-one, and it works well in a small kind of multicast way. But in big groups, it doesn't really work. If there's more than 10 people, as no one puts their hand up. They always cut over each other, and it just doesn't really work. So I think that'll be interesting. But the skills will persist. The buying behavior won't change. The buying behavior will still be online research, lots of information. And so you have to leverage all of the communication platforms. I actually think LinkedIn is becoming a very powerful communication platform. I think people, as you know, most people don't even know how to use LinkedIn. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but people don't realize the algorithms behind it, that, there's certain things that you do in your post means everyone assumes all their followers will see it. No way. There's an algorithm there, and it's like, so how do you get that resonance? And again, I'm not going to give away the secrets because you guys help us a lot on that, and I know you help others. But there's many, many different things you can do to make your social media presence, whether it's LinkedIn. And I think that's becoming the business platform. I think it's actually reinvented itself quite well from what was a recruiting platform into actually quite a good platform for posting. I think it's going to be a lot of leveraging through other mediums and partnerships. So I think actually little partner marketing is going to be very important.
What is that marketing? What type?
Partner marketing, where you're looking at, people that are buying something which is in a parallel or technology or an orthogonal technology to you. There will be a lot of linking of opportunities there. And we're seeing that more and more where people go, hey, this customer really needs your technology because they're doing this. So we're investing a lot in alliances. But then I think it will go back to mainly voice. I think voice is still the main medium to get interest. I generally do. And whether that's voice plus video, I don't know. But I still think a lot of selling is done on that voice connection, to be honest.
Yeah, no doubt. To sales leaders listening in, you highlighted something very specifically, which was LinkedIn as a B2B engagement platform. And the way I look at it is, hey, if I can't get in person to a in-person event, I'm going to use the next best thing, which is an online networking event. And I'm going to either create it or join it. And that's where LinkedIn comes into play. A lot of sales leaders, though, Marcus, our age, in that 45 and older category, we really struggle, and we have no idea what our sellers need to do. And we really don't understand whether or not our sellers are doing the right thing when they are doing something out there.
Yeah.
So what do you tell the sales leader who's listening in on whether or not they need to transform, pivot, change, or what do you say to them as this time in this era is now you have to?
Well, you have to embrace it, and there's a number of people that understand how LinkedIn works. There's some great consultants out there. Your company has a good understanding of exactly how it works. And so all of the platforms out there use algorithms, and those algorithms change, but they don't change as much as you think. So in order to get your voice out there, it's about sharing opinions. So my biggest advice to anyone, and look, I should eat my own dog food on this. I need to do a lot better, is people of our age and our profile and our, sometimes our experience, because you have a big organization, you feel like you don't want to post too much. You feel you don't want to make an opinion. You have to give an opinion. So as a leader, if you can't give an opinion, how on earth are you expecting your 25-year-old sales reps to do it? So engage in conversations, have a point of view, be careful on your topics because they can come and bite you. And just engage, just ask questions. I mean, the best way to post is ask questions. I posted today. I'm like, I put one out like hashtag SD-WAN. I'm going, guys, we made an SD-WAN acquisition today. I'm like, just an open question. What is SD-WAN not delivering that you think it should? Just feedback, and it will pour in. If I posted something about, hey, we're doing really well, it would get no views. I mean, people are not interested in you talking about yourself. Pose a question, have an opinion is always my biggest advice to anyone in sales. And I know that the rest of the sales leaders out there won't be shy of having opinions. And the other thing is just don't comment on other people. So never comment on the competition. I just assume so many people do that. I'm like, please don't do that. That will not end well. And so anyone out there's competing with me, I won't comment on you. You don't comment on me, and we'll have a deal. Okay, there you go.
I love it. You raise a really good point about having an opinion or thoughts and bringing some thought leadership and getting content out there. But you also do something that is very unique. And as you know, because we've been training your sales force on how to leverage social, we study a lot of the leaders that are engaged. And I'll tell you something that's very unique to you that most of our other customers in terms of leadership positions have not done. In fact, you'll take this, and I've actually used you as an example to other leaders in other organizations that we work with. And what you do really well is you've done an amazing job at doing recognition.
Yeah.
And recognition, and you've done, oh my God, what's the name escaping me? Kudos. There we go. You've done the LinkedIn kudos where you've built out something. And it's something so simple of acknowledging someone's good efforts, something that they did. And the organization gets behind you and you get all these engagement. And then that person feels like, oh my God, I just got put in front of the limelight and there I feel so special. Yeah. And it's something that I do a lot internally, but I haven't done very much of externally. So it's interesting to see that that's something that you've done. I would encourage you to keep doing it, but all the rest of the leaders that are listening in, at a minimum, use it as an opportunity to bring visibility to that individual. And people crave for that visibility. Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to give too many, I don't have my competition a lot. I don't want to tell them how to do all this, but the other thing is look at your profile as well. I mean, when it's about you, say what you feel, about you isn't, mine. I changed mine recently. Mine used to say, sales leader, P&L control, blah, 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 blah. And I go, who gives a shit? Excuse the language, who cares? Why don't I just say something which is meaningful? So I now say what we're trying to do as a charter and what I enjoy about my job. And it's like, I get more views. Now, is it important that I get views? No. But then if they follow me and I can make a question and then that leaks to somebody else, it's all important because as a C-level, you have the advantage, as you know, of having, potentially you could have tens of thousands of contacts if you wanted, and that can resonate and make your seller's life easier because at some point you'll only be one level removed from somebody they're trying to get to. And the other thing is leverage your executives. If your C-suite and your VPs and your SVPs are not engaged, don't expect your sales team to be engaged in social platforms because they're not going to be. You're making life too difficult for them. That's probably the best advice you could give.
There you go. You've heard it from the man and the myth and legend himself, Mr. Marcus Jewell. Marcus, if people want to connect with you, engage with you, what's the best way? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it through Twitter?
LinkedIn, not Twitter anymore. I think Twitter, I'm kind of pulling off Twitter for, I'm not happy with how that's going in terms of some of the stuff that's posted there. So I think LinkedIn is now my thing. So as a platform there, always there. Or good old-fashioned email if they need to.
So we'll make sure we put Marcus's LinkedIn profile inside of the show notes, but it's Marcus Jewell, Jewell, and make sure when you send him a connection request, you make sure you say, I heard you on the Modern Selling Podcast. So at least he knows that it's somewhat personalized. Come on, people. Make sure you reach out. And for all of you sellers trying to sell to Marcus, you better make sure you've listened to this podcast and tell him about something unique that you found out about it. Marcus, it's been a fabulous conversation. I got one last question for you, buddy. And that is your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
I can't give you one. I can give you two. So my favorite movie of all time is a toss-up between Young Frankenstein and Gladiator. And I had to think about that when you asked me how to do that, but probably Young Frankenstein. But some days I watched Gladiator with my 13-year-old son. Sorry, he's not age appropriate yet, but it's near. The other day, and he loved it. And I just remember what a great film that was. That was a fantastic movie. But probably the one I go back to, Young Frankenstein. Very funny film.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll include that in the show notes. And for all of you listening in, that's Marcus Jewell here. Please don't turn that dial. Make sure you listen to this very important message right now. Don't forget to visit postal.io to learn how you can integrate direct mail and gifting into your existing strategy. Postal.io is a sales and marketing engagement platform that generates leads, increases sales, and improves customer retention. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a rating and review on iTunes. I would appreciate it. Also, if you want to easily find our show, just go to themodernsellingpodcast.com. Hey, since you'll be on our site, be sure to check out our Modern Marketing Engine podcast hosted by my co-founder and CMO, Bernie Borges. Thanks for listening in, and until the next episode,
good selling.